What is
MagDK?
baby, don't hurt me, don't hurt me,
Please us.
baby, don't hurt me, don't hurt me.
Please us.
Hello everyone, Nerdstorm here, and in this video I would like to talk to you guys a little bit about the new patch notes that were recently released of the new Dragonhold DLC. And there were a lot of things in these notes that I really liked, and a lot of things, sadly more, that I did not. And I figured I will make a video and talk to you guys about all these things. However, I don't really like the format where a streamer sits in front of the patch notes and reads out every single line and starts discussing it over hours and hours. So I figured I'll just bring up the few subjects that I have the strongest opinion about in the whole patch notes and discuss those things with you guys. So let's get started. So the subjects I would like to discuss the most in this video are 1. The way ZOS handled the DoTs meta. 2. The new sets they introduced, which are very different to the sets they tend to introduce with new updates. 3. The very hot subject that's been talked about since release, pretty much non-stop, which is what the hell is going to happen with DC Swing. And last, the balance of classes, which in my opinion is going to be really, really bad. But alright, let's jump right into the dot meta and what ZOS have done to try and take care of it. And so, to any of you guys who lived under a rock and haven't actually PvP'd in ESO at all in the last 2 months, dots have been a huge, huge problem. Basically, with ZeniMax buffing up 2 very, very strong dots that any build had access to, which are basically Entropy and Soul Trap. Entropy is a Mage's Guild skill, and Soul Trap is a Soul skill line skill, and it basically now scales off of both Magicka and Stamina damage. And what ZOS did is up the damage on both these skills so far beyond good measure that almost any build out there, especially people who XG1, started to use those. And that caused an issue where whenever you would go and try to 1vx or 2vx and you fight a group of opponents more than yourself, you would end up with so many dots applied to you before the fight even started, and again through the fight, that no matter what you did, you couldn't deal with all the dots and all the damage that they caused to you. Even if you played as a Mag player, you would have to spam cleanse very, very frequently, and honestly, any other class that didn't have very good access to a cleanse, any class other than Templar and Necro, really suffered in this patch. You had to go either a lot more defensive with a ton more healing than you did before, or, just give it up and say, fuck it, I'm gonna kill before I get killed, and then end up dying to dots many, many times with nothing but regretting your heart, thinking, why did ZOS have to buff it up so much? And so with this new patch, with the new patch notes that ZOS just released, what they are saying is, instead of solving the issue of dot stacking, which a lot of us thought could be handled with, many different ideas, maybe, reduce the efficiency of the non-class-based dots, and maybe make it so dots, like the same dot from 2 different players, can stack on the same target, so that when you 1v2 or 1v3 or 1v10, you don't have X amount of time every single dot, X being the amount of every single player you fight all combined together. Instead of doing any of that, what ZOS decided to do was just cut off the damage of all dots, including class-based ones, by roughly 50%. Some dots more, some dots less, but all dots, class-based, weapon-based, guild-based, any dot, just had ton of its damage reduced. And the thing is, while it is a solution that would suffice and will actually make the dot meta disappear, just vanish as if it never had ever existed, it actually has a lot of downsides. First of all, you are basically damaging classes that had to rely on burst to deal their damage, like MagDK is the best example. MagDK is a class that has historically dealt its damage through dots, and now you kind of took that away from them, and they will have to adapt without it, and more on that later when I talk about classes. Not only that, but also ZOS just made it so you don't have the different options when you are building your setup. When you built your setup before, you could think, okay, so how do I want to do this? Do I want to, have a bunch of dots applied on my target and slowly chip off damage until I can do some kind of rotation and kill them? Or do I want to go with a more direct damage kind of burst? And each class the meta of it has adopted a different style that was the easiest one to apply to the class, but at least you had the options. And, for example, Stamsork is a great example for it. As a Stamsork, you could play with either, focusing up with a DZ swing and an Executioner and trying to get in the damage through that, or you could go with a more dot-oriented build where you apply a lot of pressure through dual-wield bleeds and double dot poisons and, apply a bunch of different dots to players, chip off their health, and then go with one rotation and try to smoothly kill them. And, Stamsork is a good class for that because the class had a lot of players using either one of these methods. And now, you kind of really, really hurt the alternative of using dots as your primary damage source. And I have to say, dots were not an issue until the neutral ones, the non-class-based ones, got buffed so drastically. Dots were, sometimes annoying to handle, especially in classes without purge, but they were a part of the game that we accepted, and we understood that it is the way it is, and we need to have a certain amount of healing power to handle builds that use those. But now, basically, we don't have the option anymore to use those as the aggressive side in a fight. You cannot use dots as your main source of damage because they all lost huge chunks of their damage. You can still use dots to chip off enemy health, which very likely will still be the case for almost any setup, but it's not quite as powerful as it was before, and you cannot rely on it as much as you have before in your setup building. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about the new sets ZOS introduced to the game, and I gotta say, I am quite amazed by these new sets. The designs on these are very, very different to what ZOS have added to the game in every patch in the history so far, which has basically been, the typical approach would be either add completely random sets that are very, very clearly not going to be good and not going to be used by anyone, or add very new powerful sets that will get adjusted either through the PTS cycles, and nerfed to the point they cannot be used, or go to live and become the new meta until another patch comes and they get nerfed to the fucking ground. And this patch, they actually did not do anything that feels to me at least like that, but rather they added a bunch of different sets with a very unique design that we have not seen before in the game. For example, the New Moon Acolyte set, which basically increases your damage by a huge amount, both weapon and spell damage, but increases the cost of your active abilities by 5%. This is something we have not seen before in ESO. We haven't seen anything quite like that, and I really like it because not only is it a new, unique, interesting design, but this actually gets you to think when you set up your build. You gotta think, wait, so is it worth it for me? If I want to optimize the amount of damage I deal, if I want to deal the most damage I possibly can to maximize it, then is it worth giving away, additional resources for every single ability I use? Is it worth it? Is it not? How offensive do I want to go? This is like taking your setup making to a new way, to a new place where you actually have to think through additional aspects of your playstyle, rather than just, okay, so this set is the one that gives me the most damage, this is the set that gives me the most sustain, let's combine those, okay, I'm good to go. You actually have to think through, and balance out the different parameters of your build to reach the optimal state of things. And I really like that. This is a really great new design. And, another great example is Ancient Dragon Guard. This set on the 5-piece bonus gives you weapon and spell damage while your health is over 50, and gives you physical and spell resistance instead when your health is below 50. And that is a set that is like, okay, so it's not giving me as much damage or as many resistances as I could get from other sets, but it gives me either this or the other one conditionally based on what I currently need more. So it makes you think, do I want to actually make my build never reach its peak potential in any given moment, but have a lot more flexibility? And this is, it's just a new direction to take your entire theory crafting into, and I really like that, and I appreciate ZOS a ton for taking the time to come up with these kinds of sets, and I hope we will have a lot of use for those, and I'm sure we will as well. So the next subject on our list is how can we not talk about DZing swings? So what ZOS basically did in this patch notes is what you guys can see right now on the screen. DZ swing has lost its knockback completely, and instead it sets its targets to the off-balance status for 7 seconds. Now, there is a slight positive side to it, yes, but mainly, really, it is a pretty awful change, considering as the vast majority of stamina builds these days, no matter on what class, use Dizzying Swing as their main source of both spammable damage and, hard CC. Losing the knockback is actually pretty huge. It doesn't knock the target back, it doesn't stun them, the whole package is lost. Now, there is a little bit of a positive note to it because you are setting your targets off balance, and that means that with just a heavy attack, without them recovering from the off balance first, you can actually set them to a CC state, as well as deal increased damage to them, because off balance gives you additional 10% damage to your targets through your champion points. So really, it is somewhat a good thing, but Dizzying Swings, as we know it today, is not going to be the same. It will not be utilized as frequently, not the same way, and it's a massive change. It really is a huge change, in my opinion. There's another aspect to it that I'd like to discuss, which is on Uppercut, like the base morph of Dizzying Swing. Zoss just wrote that they reduced the damage dealt by each ability and morph by 16% to ensure it does not eclipse other damage abilities such as dots. So basically, the way I read this is, okay, so we nerfed dots because they were overperforming, so we want to make them, less good. We're going to nerf dots. But oh wait, no, something else that wasn't overperforming and slightly better than dots. How about we nerf that as well, so that dots can still perform as good? Even if you want to set the dots and the Dizzying Swing to be roughly as, as potent to use as the other, then, you can just nerf dots a little bit less, maybe? I don't get why you would nerf Dizzying Swing unless you actually felt the damage of it was overperforming previously to these patch notes. Because it doesn't make sense that you have a dot standard, you want to reduce the efficiency of the dot standard, and now you want to reduce the efficiency of additional skills outside of that standard just because you nerf dots. It doesn't make too much sense to me, personally. And, there still are some alternatives to use instead of Dizzying Swing for, as CCs for stamina setups. You have Turn Evil, which is the new Fighter's Guild ability that actually hard CCs style fear your targets, actually several targets even, on melee range. There is Magnum Shot through the bow skill line that can still set the target to a stun through distance, and there is obviously Reverb, which lost a lot of its power in the previous patch, but is still useful as a CC if you don't use Dizzying Swing. So there are still options out there, I just don't feel like they're quite as good as DZ was. Maybe that's for the best, maybe that's for the worst. In my personal opinion, it's probably for the worst. I don't think it was deserved, even if I did feel Dizzying Swing was way over popular, even in a dot meta. I don't feel like this change was called for whatsoever. And last on our list, of course, is the classes balanced, and boy do we have a lot to talk about in here. So let's begin with the obvious. Templar, is it OP? So Templar in general, and especially Magplar, have been pretty much kings in this meta that we are currently playing on live, mainly because of the dots meta, in my opinion, because Templars have such a great access to a cleanse that, while costs a lot, is very efficient and helps a ton while 1vxing. And not only that, but actually Templar had some really strong tools. There are some broken mechanics like the snare from its abilities being too strong, probably unintentionally. Javelin not being able to break free out of it is really strong. And obviously there is just, Bubble, the new skill that was added or redesigned in the previous patch. The new Templar Bubble is extremely strong. And while it is taking some slight nerfs in this patch, or in these patch notes, I mean, it's just not nearly enough. It's still going to be a super solid and super strong skill, both morphs of it, and really I feel like it's really not cool. Templars are barely taking much of a nerf and are still going to be sitting right on top of the food chain, looking down at everyone else struggling to adapt to the nerfs. And I don't know, I've played a lot of Templar in the last patch, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. I just don't feel like it's right that other classes get nerfed while Templar still reigns supreme, I don't feel like it's the right way to go about it. Next class I want to talk about is Warden. Warden is getting a lot of redesigns and adjustments to current abilities. I feel like it's the class that gets the most out of this entire, redoing classes and improving class identity thing. And I actually am really hyped to try and play Magica Warden next patch. It's getting a lot of new tools, a lot of its previous tools that were not quite good to use, or were good, but just not quite there, are getting changed and adapted. And I feel like I'm gonna have a lot of fun messing with it and seeing exactly how I can make the new skills work. Or maybe I cannot make them work, but I'm really hyped about trying it out. A real concern though is Stamina Warden, which currently is one of the stronger classes. It's not, the highest in my tier list personally, but it is a pretty strong class, Stamina Warden, and now with a few of the new changes coming up, I feel like it might be something we need to keep an eye on. Stamina Warden might become a bit too much with its potential, with its damage. Permafrost getting a huge update there in the new patch notes is, while it's a good thing and a cool thing for Magadins that have been struggling just a little bit below the average, I feel like Stamina Wardens probably don't need to get that. Probably are good as they are, or maybe needed slightly, more nerfing adjustments. Not really an actual nerf, but maybe need to be tuned down a little bit. But the way it is right now, we just need to keep our eyes open and look at Stam Warden and see how they do in the new patch. Next, I want to talk about Sorks. What up with Sorks, you guys? I thought the whole concept of this class identity thing was going over Magicka and Stamina classes and fixing those up, giving them some more tools so they feel unique. So Stamina DK got a little bit, and Magicka Warden got a little bit, and what up with Stamsork? Why did Stamsork get a Stamina pet and nothing else? This is beyond me. Streak getting a little bit of a buff. Alright, that's fine. Streak is already too strong, so who even cares anymore at this point? And next, what is up with Necro? I mean, it's gotten slightly good adjustments with the new channeled abilities that consume corpses being no longer in the global cooldown, which is a great thing. And I made a video just as Necros were released about the issues with Necros, and one of them was how difficult it is to consume corpses for your skills in your duration while 1vxing. And I feel like this is a great change for that. But other than that, nothing. Not a reliable CC, not some better burst, no anything that, any good fixes to Blast Bones. I don't know. I still feel like the class is lacking. It's currently one of the least played classes in any actual competitive play in 1vxing. There are very few 1vx content creators, for example, working on these classes because Stamina and Magicka Necros are just not performing super well right now. And while they are usable and they can be made good, they're at the bottom of the list. So I really expected us to give them a little bit more, even though the class is so fresh and new. And last of all, I gotta talk about my beloved Magicka DK. What the hell is up with this one? Honestly, they are, nerfing dots. I get that. Dots as a whole are nerfed, and class-based dots, while I don't think should have been the case, are also being nerfed. And a part of that is also nerfing MagDK dots. I get that. I actually think it's the right thing to do. But the amount of damage reduced to MagDK dots is crazy to me. Roughly 50%, slightly more than that, to both the main damage sources on MagDK, Engulfing Flames and Burning Embers, taking huge damage nerfs. And I get that, all classes need to get their dots nerfed, but MagDKs actually, historically, have relied on their dot pressure to get their kills, because the class lacks an execute, it lacks a very good gap closer in its kit. And yes, there is chains, but there are a lot of issues with it and with slotting it. And the class as a whole has been using dots to chip off enemy health and then lashes and a little bit of additional burst to get the kills off. And taking their dot pressure away feels like it's gonna make the MagDK's lives very more difficult than they were previously to this patch. Even though right now on live, MagDKs have a very hard time because any access to clans, and the dot meta is really tough on them. Still, I feel like this is going to be a lot worse to them. And, the class already has the least amount of burst in the game, no execute, the worst class-based sustain, and, speaking of sustain, the dots, both the MagDK dots, are actually taking a huge cost increase as well, in addition to the damage reduction, which I'm not really sure where it comes from. Last patch, both these dots took a slight cost increase, but Burning Embers now cost 3 times what it did 2 patches ago. Is a huge deal. And Engulfing Flames, while it lost a little bit of damage last patch, now it's, losing more damage in the damage over time aspect and getting a cost increase. I feel like these dots are just becoming barely usable at this point. And honestly, I mean, I always say, all classes adapt, and I'm sure MagDKs will adapt as well, but I don't see a real incentive if things stay just like they are in these patch notes. I don't see a real incentive to play MagDK over, for example, Magplar, because MagDK don't have anything over Magplar except maybe Wings, which honestly aren't as good as Bubble. So really, no actual tool in their kit that performs better than anything in the Magplar kit. Less healing, less sustain, less damage, less dot pressure. I honestly don't feel like it's going to be worth to play MagDK over Magplar, and that saddens me a lot. And I'm going to end up this video on a possibly more optimistic note. Looking forward to see what ZOS decide to do with the class passives. I don't know when that's coming, but I believe it is. And when they redesign some of the class passives, we are in for a treat. Whether it's going to be great or it's going to be terrible, it's definitely going to be a huge change that's going to affect the game a ton. So looking forward to see what they have, to show us then. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching this video. This has been my summary of the patch notes. I know I didn't include anything or everything from the patch notes in this video, but these were the top changes I really wanted to address and talk about. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Do you not? What do you feel it's going to be like playing in Dragonhold in the next patch? And once again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all the support I've been getting for you guys on YouTube in the past few months. And if you guys enjoyed this video, then please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you would like to see more. And also, my Twitch and my Discord links are going to be down below in the description and the comment section. So if you guys would like to chat with me outside of, the YouTube platform, feel free to join my Discord and talk to me there, or come watch me live on Twitch, and I'll try to go on as many rants as possible about the new patch notes right over there, so you guys can argue with me and talk to me about everything you feel. Thank you one last time for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.